Hey, welcome to Bitwise Vids. I'm your host, Dr. Nate, and in this series we explore and learn how intelligent software tools and business processes are shifting how we design, build, secure, and maintain the power grid. In this episode, we're going to be talking about GIS challenges in the power industry, Geographic Information Systems. And in the power industry, there's a lot of need to have access to the data, asset data, project management data, construction data. It's very critical to have access to that data, and there's a lot of benefit, but yet also a lot of challenges with kind of how the industry has evolved over time. Well, as we dive in, you think about GIS, you think of a map, you think of assets on a map, and then here even I have this drawn up here at the top where this is map, map A here, and then this is map B on the other side, and there's just different types of representations of the same asset, right? You may have squares, you may have circles, you may have little poles, little icons that basically, here is a distribution pole, or in some GIS systems, you're actually drawing the conductor, the feeder, the actual circuit that has the flow of electrons on it. And it's pretty much all, four of these are the same type of assets, it's just represented visually different. And a lot of times, both with the data representation, the data, visualization basically, how data gets in, how data gets out, how do you update the data? Do you have to jump in at command line and terminal? All of this kind of comes into basically this overwhelming complexity, right? That is this perception or challenge of GIS. It's like, nah, too complex. And in some cases, it's accurate. It does depend on the GIS system that is being used and being implemented. And oftentimes, due to this complexity, what do we have to have, right? We have to have a dedicated person. We have to have somebody who is trained and aware, and we give them a new title, call them GIS analyst. And in many cases, it is appropriate. It is due, and required to have that dedicated person who knows that GIS system to help sort through the complexity and be a reference for other people. Now, but what often happens is, as we transition to these challenges from data, so there's just the complexity of the system itself, but then we look at data, and this dedicated person, sometimes, not all the times, right? So the GIS folks, please don't take offense. It becomes a challenge of availability to where we have basically, there's no field access. The people in the field who could really use it, who could have access to this data, it's just not available to them. There is no field access. And basically there's some gatekeeper. There's always some person and potentially, this person who is the dedicated person that, hey, if the data gets, messed up, then it's their fault, right? So of course they're going to want to keep it close to the chest and lock it down. But that becomes a problem because now the data is not available to people. And then we talk about accuracy, right? So imagine a trash ball going into GIS. And then of course, what do you get out, right? You get that same trash that you put in, you get that out, Garbage in, garbage out is as the saying goes, right? But one bigger problem with this accuracy, or one solution, which is related to the previous one as well as far as availability, is if you want accurate information, well, guess what? You need to give your guys in the field access to be able to do it, right? So the field crews, in some cases, if they do have access, guess what? They are prohibited, so they're blocked from making updates. So they can't actually do it, they can't make the updates. They got to submit something, they got to email something. The guys in the field are typically running and gunning, trying to keep the lights on for everybody. And they're blocked from updating the error, right? So there's the accuracy issue. And then this last one is actionable. Is it actionable? Is the data actually actionable? So the question is, for the field, in the moment, right, as well as the back office, is it actionable for them in that moment that they're trying to access that data? So looking at even this one right here, I want to go back to the accuracy one, is there's a big project that I was aware of, $1.2 million to try to get this accuracy here updated. to the latest and greatest. And it was funny because the guys in the field who were trying to make sure, hey, is this asset, transformer, pole, is it in the right location? They were doing that with pen and paper, documenting it, sending it back to the gatekeeper, and it just doubled the price of this project that was to get the accuracy up to date, right? So there's a bunch of interesting lessons learned from that project for sure. But kind of these two examples here, we got a GIS inspection form. So this is an inspection-based form that's built out where the person in the field, he's sitting here measuring the conductivity or resistivity rather of the ground wire that's coming down here. And basically as he or she's measuring the resistivity of the ground, of the soil, they have to have a feedback and say, hey, do I need to install another ground wire or not, right? And this is feedback that if it's a modern type of GIS, hopefully that inspection form says, hey, you're measuring this resistivity value, well, you need to do X or you need to do Y, right? That's an example of what's capable to kind of solve some of these challenges as far as is it actionable or is it not. And then another example is we got our person in the field who is able to actually talk and communicate up to a GIS system, and then the people in the back office, right? So this is the actual back office right here, where they are able to see things in real time. Let's say via some kind of dashboard, we got some cool pie charts here, and then we have, some kind of table, where as the things are happening in the field, they're getting a live feed or live view of those, let's say, inspection results. As well as, let's say that there's an issue, there's a certain type of event that happened in the field, could be safety, it could be, hey, faulty equipment, ground wire, the copper was stolen out of the substation. And then guess what? As soon as that field personnel sees that, they take pictures, submit an inspection form, and then boom, we can actually have it to where an email gets drafted and then boom, sent out to the distribution list as far as the immediate notification. So there are a number of challenges with GIS, especially if we try to hold on to maybe some of those old school way of doing GIS. But there's also a lot of opportunity, right? And we're actually going to be exploring that in a future video. So appreciate watching. We will have some resources and documentations linked below. So thanks for watching.